Okay, today we'll begin our talk with Serbian monuments, a phenomenon in the field of architecture, art, environmental art, sculpture, plastic art in general. This phenomenon is called Spomeniks from Yugoslavia. And indeed, they erected unbelievable monuments in many places, and they astonish us as they probably were astonishing at the time when they were built. Probably they started to build them around 1960s or so, maybe even 1950s, I don't know exactly. And they were built for about 20 years. I just show one or a few images about each one of them. This is a monumental sculpture, but in some places I even saw it being described as architecture. But it is a sculptural work of monumental proportions, and I think it's very, very dramatic. With these monuments, the Serbs, they try to pay homage to those who died in the Second World War. I mean, this is at the scale of a small building, concrete, but it's dramatic, it's Zarathustrian, it's Nietzschean, it's very emphatic in its desire to conquer death in a way, to transgress death. This is a building done at that time in communism under Tito's rule. Former Yugoslavia did incredible things in the field of architecture, in the field of art, in the field of sculpture. The reason I chose to talk about this today is because I mainly wanted to address the first year students who have, who study materials, constructive materials, and these are buildings and sculptures done in concrete, like this one. And in a strange way, and there is some kind of a strange coincidence or synchronicity. After this, I will talk about Rudolf Steiner. This building has something of, although it's much more contemporary in terms of aesthetics, but it stimulates the mind and the eye, I think, somehow in a similar way with Goetheanum, the building that Rudolf Steiner built. So to me, it is amazing that 50, 60 years ago, maybe even 70 years ago almost, the Serbs built such things which are abstract, which are modern, which are, sophisticated in terms of artistic expression. And in my opinion, they are timeless. They were built then, but they are as relevant now than then. In fact, I can give examples of two observatories built in Japan by an important Japanese architect, and parts of those observatories are similar to what we look at here. Again, they are not all buildings. Some of them are, some are just large sculptural works. Serbia, you can visit them. You could even go by train there or by car. I find them very moving and courageous and heroic. And I admire the fact that they paid homage to those who died tragically in the Second World War. And they didn't do it, showing soldiers with rifles in their hands, but in an abstract way and in an expressive way. This is almost like a metaphor of art conquering death, transgressing death. I find them very moving and visionary. We already saw a picture of this This is a building. I hope I have other pictures with it because I like it. But you see, it's a very heroic, vitalist architecture that they built, as I said, 50, 60 years ago, if not 70. And many. I truly find all this collective work as a beautiful transgression of death, as a beautiful homage to those who died. Of course, they used a lot of concrete, and that was the reason I chose to talk about this now. But we'll see a lot of concrete also in the work of Rudolf Steiner and Livio Vacchini. This sculptor was well known in Yugoslavia, and he did, I think, very moving works, as you can see here. Bravo to them. Because I think significant artworks are a victory for everybody. Of course, they were done by certain individuals, but somehow it is a collective victory. You know, through the individual work, they transgress their own individuality, so it becomes kind of a collective achievement. You can see the scale is quite large, almost gigantic. I truly find them very, very moving. It's not just a play with forms. Here is a struggle. It is their expressions of an existential and artistic struggle. I also like this picture because, you know, it shows the dialectics between the old church and the new sculpture. And, you know, the new and the old can coexist and should coexist. These are unique in the whole world. There is no other country that built at such an extent, you know, innovative, forward-looking artworks at this scale. They are unique. Concrete. Much can be done with concrete. Too bad it pollutes. But it's a material that allows for many forms, many shapes. These are our neighbors, no? Next door, so to speak. Former Yugoslavia. Bravo to them again. So in communism, 50, 60 years ago, they built such things. No other country in the world did this. You can see they are huge. You see the human silhouette there. But what do we see here? We see clearly sculpture, but we also see the meeting between sculpture and architecture. And I think a sculptural architectural work is usually better than an architectural work which is not sculptural. Sculpture adds something to architecture, and to an extent, perhaps only to an extent, Brâncuș was right. Architecture is an inhabitable or inhabited sculpture. I think architecture is more than that, is a little bit different, but to an extent, Brâncuș was right. If you have a sculptural quality in your architecture, the chances is that your architecture deserves its name more than if it was not sculptural. Many of these works actually depict struggle, conflict, but also I think they depict, you know, the possible redemption through art, conquering death, to put it bluntly. I mean, you look, you see the little houses around it, I mean, in the background, but still, you know, such, you know, almost violently modern monumental structures probably astonished the, you know, the so-called common people. I mean, you know, we can build anything these days, but even today, such a building would look so-called futuristic. In my opinion, and it's not only my opinion, great architecture inspires. You can only imagine these children, you know, exploring the building, moving towards it. Something remains within them, you know, the power of artistic emotion. In its essence, art is a triumph of spirit, of human spirit, and human work, and human inspiration. Really, these look very forward-looking today as well. Very much so. I mean, look at this building. Yes, it is abandoned. Yes, it is vandalized, but it still has vigor. It still has vitality. The home of the revolution in Montenegro. Look at this building. It's a fortress. It's a bulwark of resistance. It has force. I mean, it almost doesn't matter it is abandoned and vandalized. It still has power. Spomenik, another, we already saw a picture of this. I'm glad I have others here. I don't know what its function is. It's something, yeah, the municipal assembly. Can you imagine? This was a political building, a governmental building. These people were really visionaries. Well, I'm tempted to think that 200 years from now, you know, if there will still be humanity on this earth, if they come across, you know, these works, they would be as astonished as I was when I first saw them. You see the building here on the left, and you see this building, and they have nothing in common. This building didn't try to mimic this house. It's a world in itself, a municipal building. Very powerful. This is almost a fragment of a building by the one we are going to talk about tomorrow on his birthday, on his 94th birthday. That is Frank Gehry. This was built 56 years ago in former Yugoslavia. Brutalism is also quite accomplished in Belgrade and in other places, I imagine, in former Yugoslavia. As you can see, they master concrete, raw concrete. Great art transforms. This is my belief. Great art could change one's life. It's very possible that that human silhouette, that person there, leaves the site with something perhaps changed within him. This I could have shown yesterday at the Diagonal Festival. Homage to Claude Parron. And the dancer there. I remember what Nietzsche said, I would only believe in a dancing God. And yes, dance is a primordial art form, and we should all dance. I kept saying this, and I will continue to say it. Every single atelier session at MINCU, at the University of Architecture and Urban Planning or Urbanism, could start, hopefully, with 10 minutes of dance. Every atelier, every studio, I think it would be great. 10 minutes of dance would change the spirit of everybody. If the soldiers in Ukraine, both Russians and Ukrainians, would dance 10 minutes a day, there would be no war. It would be very simple. 10 minutes a day, the same 10 minutes, both armies to dance. There would be no war, meaning there would be no death. It's very sad that we prefer instead to kill instead of dancing. Former Yugoslavia, a lesson in a collective effort of quite unprecedented dimensions, scattered all over the land. And there are others besides these that I show. It was a phenomenon. Sponsored by the state, of course, such an effort needed financial support at the highest level. But this is amazing that the political organisms or institutions of former Yugoslavia paid for this. Bravo to them. Le Monument de la Discorde, the monuments of discord. I mean, look at this pavilion. I don't know how to call it. I mean, if this building was built today in Japan or I don't know where, we would say, wow, it was built in former Yugoslavia 60 years ago. It's almost like an unidentified flying object done in concrete. What an outburst of creativity. I'm not a great fan of those figurative, statues, but the building in its abstraction is I would say, very moving.